This is our webinar on impactful partnerships. And we're so thankful that you chose to share your lunch hour with us to hear about some of the exciting things that we're working on with our partners, new and old. And we want to extend our gratitude for your continued support. We could not do what we do for our fellow neighbors without the dedication of you, our loyal supporters. First, today, you will hear from our President and CEO, Steve Saltzman. Then Michael Waters, the treasurer of Dartmouth Health, will be joining us for a conversation on his organization's dedication to community investing. Then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A about our recent merger with NCIC. That conversation is going to be led by our community relations manager, Latanya Wallace, and will include Peter Corey, who's the vice president of NCIC, and Sarah Marchant, our chief of staff and vice president of Rock&H. We're going to be spending a lot of time today talking about the work that NCIC does, but we realize there are folks here that are new to the work of the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund too, and I want to extend a very special welcome to you. For 40 years, we have been turning investments, donations, and grants into loans and coaching to help historically excluded people participate more fully in our economy. Our lending programs are focused on affordable home ownership, small businesses, including to entrepreneurs of color and nonprofits. We will be putting a link to a video that talks a bit about our history and impact in the chat. And we invite you to reach out to us at any time to learn more. All right, now we're going to kick things off with a few words from Community Loan Fund President and CEO, Steve Saltzman.
Hey, Katie, thanks a lot. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And I want to thank everybody for your continued support, of the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. The title today is Impactful Partnerships, and it's really the backbone of everything the Community Loan Fund has done, and it's really key to our growth and sustainability. We're really excited to have Michael Waters from Dartmouth Hitchcock Health here to talk about, the health system's commitment to investing in social determinants of health. And when I reflect on it, there are two things that I think are really significant about their approach. One is that they think about public and population health beyond the walls of the hospital, and that's really core to their strategy. And the second is they're thinking, how do they use all the tools at their disposal to impact population health, including their Treasury Department? And I think their leadership is really instructive. I appreciate that their investment is going to allow us to create and preserve more affordable home ownership opportunities in the state. And they're looking not just at the financial return of their investments, but the social returns. And I want to talk about something that happened recently. We made a loan to organize the 149th resident-owned cooperative in the state. We made them a loan at 5.15% interest, which is far below the market rate for a very similar loan. It would be impossible to do if we were paying our investors 5.35% for their investments. But think about that. Even at that 5.15% interest that we charged the co-op, so that they could buy their park and they could own the land under their homes, the rents are going to go up by $180 a month. A market rate for these loans today is close to 9%. If we had charged them 9%, the lot rents would have increased $800 a month, which would have been completely unaffordable for the residents and really would have defeated the purpose of organizing the cooperative to start with. This follows in a long tradition of the Community Loan Fund, just strategically deciding, what are we going to do in a high interest rate environment? We've chosen not to raise our rates beyond what our borrowers could afford. Anyway, I'm going to just sum up by saying I'm really grateful to Dartmouth Health for its investment, and I'm really grateful for all of our investors that have stuck with us and have decided that social return on their investments is just as important as their financial returns. It's allowed us to make loans that were affordable to our borrowers and also to provide the intense coaching and technical assistance our borrowers need. Anyway, with that, let me turn it back over to Katie. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Next, it's my honor to welcome Michael Waters, who's the treasurer of Dartmouth Health. We are fortunate to have Michael joining us today because he really is a true visionary in the role that health systems and other institutions can play in mitigating health risks through investments in housing and other things called social determinants of health. Michael, welcome. Why don't you start off by telling us about why Dartmouth Health first decided to invest in the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund a few years ago, and also why the organization recently decided to become the Community Loan Fund's largest in-state investor.
Sure. Thanks, Katie. I'm so happy to be here today. Appreciate the invite so much. We first got involved with the Community Loan Fund through an organization called the Healthcare Anchor Network, which Dartmouth Health is a part of. Under the Healthcare Anchor Network, we work to use our business and economic activity to improve the economic and social well-being of our communities and employees and patients. Basically, trying to use sort of the economic engine that is our large institution to benefit our local community. And as treasurer, I was invited in to join that internal group that works with the Healthcare Anchor Network to think about ways that we could make impact investments that would be to the benefit of our community. And at first, I was a bit skeptical of how someone like me in my role could really make an impact here, and how we could make an investment that would have a local impact. I really was not sure how I could play a role here, and how the Dartmouth Health Investment Program could. But through the Healthcare Anchor Network and the work with this group, I did receive an introduction to the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund, and was invited to their annual meeting down in Keene, New Hampshire, and I think it was 2019. So I attended that annual meeting that your team put on, and I, being a prudent, careful financial person that I am, went into that meeting also still skeptical and thinking of all of the problems that could exist with an investment like this. But to put it simply, I was blown away by that presentation, by that meeting. The team's dedication, its ability to make an impact, the stories that were told, across the state, but also in Keene, where we have a hospital located. It really resonated with me. And we were certainly aware at that time that housing was already a problem, and we thought it was going to get worse in the coming years. And so to find this organization, it just seemed like there was so much overlap in the tenets that guided you and guided us. Your emphasis on having a positive impact on people's lives, being really creative to solve problems, empowering people, just doing good. But also, and importantly, from my perspective, your emphasis on always paying back your investors on time and never missing a payment in your history. This was all really, really important for us. And after that meeting, I called my CFO and I said, "This is an incredible organization. This is an organization that's totally aligned with what we're trying to do and the way we impact lives. And we have to make this work." So we did additional due diligence, obviously, and just became totally impressed with the organization, the way that it was run, the impact that it was having, its careful use of its limited dollars just really resonated with us. And so back in 2020, we made a $3 million investment into the Community Loan Fund, which we were thrilled to make. The investment committee of Dartmouth Health really was excited to make this investment and really got behind it. It was really a great a moment for us, and one that we were really proud of. In terms of increasing our investment, the second part of your question, in doing our annual review of the investment last year, we really wanted to think about our role in the state, which we think about all the time. Dartmouth Health is the largest private employer in the state of New Hampshire, and housing is affordable housing. Lack of affordable housing is a problem that's affecting all of us all over the state. And we really felt like, as the largest private employer, we really wanted to take the lead here. And we decided to increase our investment by another 2 million, so that our total investment is now $5 million, which makes us the largest in-house or in-state investor in the fund. And we are not the first, obviously, but we wanted to take a lead role and get to that $5 million level, and hope that it creates interest amongst other organizations across the state that haven't made an investment in the fund yet, and hopefully spur them to consider what might be a reasonable investment for them, because I think it's going to take all of us to really solve this housing problem.
Michael, as you know, we are so grateful for this commitment, and you talked about wanting to inspire other organizations to do the same. And as we know, Northeast Delta Dental just came on with a very significant investment as well. And I have to think that seeing your faith in us is doing that inspiring work that you were hoping it would do. So I really appreciate it. And also, as we just heard Steve say, this capital, this below market capital, is vital to helping us continue to affordably finance resident-owned communities. But housing is just one of the social determinants of health that we keep talking about. What other work is Dartmouth Health doing in this space?
Yeah, we really are trying to take a broad look, and the way that me and my peers think about it, me and my peers that are involved with this healthcare anchor network work, is we think about, we all have our day jobs where we have important things to do, and then we just say, let's put a healthcare anchor network lens on when we can, and think about how we do our work and how we might be able to impact it very locally. So in our supply chain area, it's about can we purchase items locally? In hiring, are we being as inclusive as we possibly can in our region to make sure that we're hiring everyone that we can? Facilities, can we use local contractors and sustainable operations? And then, of course, advocating for just health equity and equity of access to good quality healthcare. And then for me, and also with our HR area, working on creating other ways to generate affordable housing. And so we helped really incubate and fund something called the Upper Valley Loan Fund, which is another vehicle helping to create more affordable housing, this one more specifically in the Lebanon region.
Wonderful. And finally, tell us a little bit about how Dartmouth Health is approaching impact investing in such a challenging rate environment, and share some advice to other organizations who are looking to also invest in our communities.
Sure. With the rising rate environment, it's true that the opportunity cost for Dartmouth Health in making this investment has become more expensive. But the way that we look at it is that our investment is also becoming much more impactful. As Steve really described there, interest rates are a direct factor in the affordability of housing. And when they go up, they obviously makes housing more unaffordable for a lot of people. And so the way we look at it is the impact of our investment is much more important right now. It's much more effective. Interest rates across the market have gone up quite a bit over the last couple of years. We've kept our investment return at the same rate because we want to continue to have an impact. So while there is a cost, it's in our mind outweighed by the impact that our money is having for your organization and for the people who need your organization. And that's what I would encourage others who are thinking about an investment in this environment to make. It's more important than ever that these investments get made and put to use.
We're so grateful that you joined us today and that you're helping us tell our story of our impact. You're really a true champion for impact investing, and for us. And so we really do thank you for taking this time today.
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, Katie. I've been at Dartmouth Health for over 14 years now, and I like to think we've done some good work in the Treasury Department, that I'm proud of. And our investment in the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund is right at the top of that list. We are so thrilled to be partners with you guys. So thank you to you, thank you to Steve, and thank you to the whole team for all the great work that you guys do.
Oh, that's so great. And Michael is going to stay on till the end of the program if people have direct questions for him. So we can take those at the end. Next, I'm going to turn it over to our Director of Community Relations, LaTanya Wallace. She's going to lead our discussion on another impactful partnership.
Thank you so much, Katie. This next part of our webinar will focus on the Community Loan Fund's recent merger with NCIC. And first, I want to welcome Peter Corey, Vice President of NCIC, to talk about the organization and how this partnership came to be. So, Peter, please tell us about yourself and NCIC.
Thanks, LaTanya, and good afternoon, everybody. I was born and raised in Littleton, New Hampshire, and joined NCIC in 2020. Prior to that, I served 34 years in the U.S. Army and retired as a Brigadier General in 2015. NCIC was founded in 1975 and is a 501c3 nonprofit economic development organization. It serves northern New Hampshire and northeastern Vermont and provides business finance, grant writing, grant management, project management, and technical assistance services.
So we'll go deeper into some of NCIC's programs later. But first, I want to ask how this partnership with the Community Loan Fund all began.
Sure. About 3 years ago, NCIC's board was at a crossroads and had to decide whether we wanted to remain financially sustainable on our own or find a strategic partner that could sustain and complement NCIC's long history of good work in the North Country and the Northeast Kingdom. We identified several organizations that we thought had the capacity and the mission fit, and one of those was the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. The more we discussed the possibilities, the more our leadership felt that this was a good alignment of our organizational values and our mission. So the Community Loan Fund was a ready and willing partner, and we decided this relationship would be the best possible outcome for NCIC and its stakeholders.
So it sounds like this is a positive step for both organizations. What effect will that partnership have on the businesses and communities you serve?
So we see this partnership as very positive for our service area. It enables us to serve our traditional stakeholders with the programs that we already have, while simultaneously allowing us to leverage the Community Loan Fund's programs and capacity in our region. Businesses in our small rural communities need growth capital every bit as much as businesses in Manchester, Concord, and Burlington. And as a matter of scale, you don't need to be a $20 million bank to have a lot of impact here. The Community Loan Fund understands this about rural economic development, and that's why we're excited to be partnering with them.
And so now that we are joining forces, are you going to continue doing business under the NCIC name?
Yes, we are. We feel that the NCIC trade name is very well known and respected in the communities that we serve, and so we intend to keep it.
We see huge value in your trade name and the community you've created. It's exciting to keep building on that together. I would love to hear more details about the programs that NCIC offers.
So first and foremost, we offer small business lending to entrepreneurs who can't access traditional capital. Sometimes our financing happens in conjunction with a commercial lender that needs our participation to help mitigate their risk. A great example of this collaboration is in Littleton, where we collaborated with another lender to help finance Chudder's, which is home to the world's largest candy counter. Our technical assistance program helps small businesses access services that they otherwise couldn't afford. This is to help with many different aspects of the business, and in many cases, the experts they hire are also small local businesses. So the money we provide continues to circulate throughout the local economy. Another important piece of the work we do is our grant writing services for both municipalities and nonprofits, who typically don't have the capacity to write a competitive grant on their own. We have extremely experienced and talented staff that can help them access funds they otherwise could not. Another example we're very proud of is the multitude of grants that help create public space along Littleton's riverfront and supported the town's recent renaissance. The town simply wouldn't have been able to write or manage the grants without NCIC's expertise and assistance, which is true of most of the municipalities that we work with.
Do you plan to start offering these programs statewide?
The short answer is yes. We do want to leverage and complement the strengths of both organizations. How we do that will become clearer as we integrate our work.
Great. And are you still offering services in Vermont?
Yes, absolutely. And we also look forward to introducing some of the community loan fund services and programs in Vermont as well.
So under this new partnership, who's in charge of NCIC now? And are any staff losing their jobs as a result of this partnership?
I remain NCI's leader and will still be making decisions for the North Country and the Northeast Kingdom. And the great news is that everybody at NCIC was offered an opportunity to join the Community Loan Fund staff. Those who wanted to did, and will maintain our northern presence, while those who did not found other local opportunities. And I might also mention that no one from the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund is losing their job either.
Well, thank you, Peter, for sharing the origin stories of this new relationship. So next, I want to welcome Sarah Marchand, the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund's Chief of Staff and Vice President of ROC NH. Sarah, tell us why this partnership with NCIC is a good thing for the Community Loan Fund.
Thank you. NCIC is an important organization with an incredible history. It was one of the first community development lenders in the country and has a highly skilled staff with deep multi-generational ties in the North Country and Northeastern Vermont. This was our opportunity to deepen our work in the North Country and also over the border in Vermont, while at the same time helping to support NCIC, a storied organization with a talented staff. There are things that NCIC does really well and things that the Community Loan Fund does really well. There isn't a lot of overlap. We are complementary to each other's work in ways that bring big benefits to both of our geographies. The bottom line is our organizations can do more together than we can do alone.
But this isn't the first time the Community Loan Fund has done work in the North Country, right?
Correct. We've been in the North Country for most of our 40-year history. We've helped convert 32 North Country manufactured home parks to resident ownership, preserving nearly 1,600 affordable homes in the area. We've made 2 loans to the Littleton Food Co-op, which is a tremendous source of local food and good jobs. We helped prevent the Country Day School from closing, so working parents didn't have to travel an hour before and after work. And we've also lent to the North Country Marketplace and partners like AHEAD, other affordable housing entities in the North Country.
But this is the first time we'll be doing work in Vermont. Doesn't Vermont have its own Community Loan Fund?
Yes, we will serve the same Northeast Kingdom area NCIC has always served. We've also had conversations with all the CDFIs in Vermont, including the Vermont Community Loan Fund. And we've discovered we all do things just a little bit differently. Each of us has our own programs designed to serve our communities best, from affordable multifamily rental housing to small business and nonprofit lending. And as we go forward, we will work to collaborate more with those who know Vermont to see how we can support their work and fill in any gaps together.
And what about the ROC program? Will we extend lending to manufactured home park residents in Vermont who want to become resident owned?
So we're a founding member of ROC USA, and we are New Hampshire's technical assistance provider in their national partner network. Rock USA currently lends to ROCs in Vermont, and the Cooperative Development Institute provides technical assistance to those ROCs. Rock USA has different lending programs than we do, and we'll continue to work in partnership with both Rock USA and the Cooperative Development Institute to make sure that we can best serve ROCs in New Hampshire and Vermont going forward.
So Peter talked about NCIC's grant writing and management services for small municipalities and nonprofits. Does the Community Loan Fund plan to make this unique service available statewide in New Hampshire? And how does it align with the traditional lending work we already do?
Great question. This service is truly a boon for smaller communities and organizations that don't have access to staff capacity of this kind and the grant funding and grant management talent to really implement these projects. They're a heavy lift. When we make a business loan, we're lifting only that one business. But when we can support the community as a whole in some of these projects, like the ones Peter talked about in Littleton, it truly lifts all the businesses and can lead to greater and more inclusive economic development. So yes, we're really looking forward to expanding these services throughout New Hampshire as well.
So on the subject of business lending, both NCIC and the Community Loan Fund offer business loans. Will one of them be taking over that work?
We're still working out a lot of details, but the best answer is we're going to collaborate. We each bring different programs to the table, and we want to make sure that all of our programs are available in both geographies. Peter and his team will bring their expertise, and as Peter said, he's still leading NCIC operations. We're going to leverage the strength and capacity of both of our programs to best support our borrowers.
Thank you to both Peter and Sarah for that deep dive into the Community Loan Fund and NCIC's new partnership. And we will be sure to share more information about our collaborative work with all of you as we continue to evolve together. And I'll hand it back over to Katie.
Thanks, LaTanya, for facilitating that discussion. And now we're going to open up the discussion to the questions from all of you. Again, please feel free to put them in the chat or use the raise hand function if you want to ask your question live. And we will get to as many as possible. I know there's a lot of people on here, and some questions are already coming through. I see Tim Wade, our friend from M&T Bank. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just so people know, M&T Bank, they made another really significant investment in us last year, and their total investments with us it's over $4 million, close to $5 million, and we're so grateful for that capital. M&T is one of a number of banks that has major investments with us. Tim, what is your question for us today?
So can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
All right, great. So Steve talked about the 5.15% rate you recently made to one resident community. Great. That's wonderful for them. When we talk about no mission, no margin, no mission, are you making that type of rate for all of your borrowers, or how does that work? Do you analyze each one on a one-off basis?
Hey, Katie, let me take that one.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Every program, has a different interest rate schema. I think when it comes to the resident communities, one of the advantages of having, a bunch of community organizers work closely, so we really look close at the lot rent and understand where the elasticity is. I wish we could charge higher interest rates, that the borrowers could afford them. But when it comes to the resident community program, which is, the predominant share of our lending by dollar volume, it's just impossible to go higher. So we're really capped there. I'd say for our business lending, our interest rates are higher, than where we tend to lend in that 6.5% to 7% range, which, as you know, is a lot lower than where the market is. But again, we're really limited by elasticity about what some of these borrowers can afford, because we look really closely at their cash flow, like all lenders do. this has been a tough environment, but over the last 2 years, we've kept our interest rates pretty flat. The way, and we've also, of course, we've had to help our staff keep up with inflation, which means raising their salaries, and we've increased our 401k match. And what we've sort of said to people is instead of increasing staff, we rather support the staff that we have better. And we're just going to have to tell everybody we're going to have to work harder and look for organizations like yours at Dartmouth Hitchcock that are willing to give us rates that allow us to sort of get that margin. If we can get 2% interest rate on our investments, that allows us to lend at 5.15 and still support our staff the way that we need to. I mean, it defeats the purpose to create affordable home ownership for the people of New Hampshire if our own staff can't afford to get homes of their own. It's a delicate balancing act. And it's funny what you said. On my very first day in community development finance, my boss sat me down and had to talk with me about no margin, no mission. And that's a lesson I repeat to every new person who joins our organization. So
Yeah,
thanks for your support, Tim.
It's challenging, Steve, and Michael at Dartmouth Health summed it up well. We all know we're in this game together, and none of us is getting rich off of doing this. Matter of fact, we're in it for the community benefit. But having said that, if you looked at, I mean, it's an inverted yield curve. It's an unusual curve. I imagine all of your loans are longer term. And you're capturing that inverted yield curve, so you're able to give people. And I don't know if you've looked at swaps or hedging in any way, shape, or form, but maybe that's something someone on the phone could help you with too.
Well, it's interesting that the cost of swaptions has really risen tremendously, in the last 36 months. Where it's funny if you look at I don't want to kill everybody who's listening to this webinar. But if you look at what's going on, and especially for a lot of multifamily developers, the cost of swaptions has really become prohibitive. And for a lot of people holding a lot of commercial real estate notes, when they look to refinance, the cost of a swaption, is really out of market from where it was, 5 years ago, for example. So that isn't something that we look at. What's great is that if you look at us over the last 20 years, our renewal rate for individual investors is really strong. It usually goes between that 70 and 90% range. When interest rates are really low, like they were 3 years ago, our renewal rate was 90% because our 2% was much higher than what people could get at banks. Now where people can get 5.25% and 5.5% elsewhere, our renewal rate is dipped below, that constant 80% where we typically get. But our individual investors are the ones that have been able to allow us to do our lending. Our cost of funds over the last 20 years has been really, really flat because, our individual investors have been willing to make the same sort of calculus that you and Dartmouth Hitchcock have made, sort of balancing social return with financial return. So we've been able to keep our interest rates really flat. But sometime where we don't, so we don't kill everybody who's listening to this webinar, you and I can talk swaptions and treasury debt stuff when it's just you and me.
Thanks to you both. Thanks for answering that question, Steve. And Tim, thank you so much for joining us and being such a great supporter of the organization as well. I'm just going to jump to a question. I see we have some other hands raised. I am going to jump to a question that came up in the chat from Lori Gabriel, who's one of our individual investors. She recently made an investment through her donor advised fund at the community foundation here. And she asked that, what are we doing to encourage more investments from DAFs? And how important is this funding source in our overall funding picture? And I'll be honest with you, Lori, you kind of inspired us to want to seek these out some more. It's not a huge part of our investor portfolio. We have individual investments, but not from DAFs. And different foundations, different organizations, they operate a little differently. The charitable foundation, where you have your donor advised fund, they have a minimum amount that you can invest through a DAF. At Fidelity, it's lower. We do have a few through some Fidelity DAFs. And there at Fidelity, they actually call them recoverable grants. So it's just like doing, we get the money in, we can pay interest back out to the donor advised fund, or the interest can be donated to us, or we can compound it. And then at the end of that maturity, if the donor, the advisor of that fund wants to keep it with us, they can renew, or they can send it back to their donor advised fund. So it's a really great opportunity for people who have donor advised funds. Thank you for asking that question. And thank you also for your continued support, Lori. Now I'm going to go to Mark from, Mark, is it Clough? Am I pronouncing your last name correctly? Hi, thanks for joining us.
Exactly right. Community National Bank. That said, I'm calling from the Caledonia Food Cooperative. Peter Corey and Betsy Siegel have just been a tremendous resource in helping us get our food co-op off the ground in St. Johnsbury, where we've really never had one. Peter was a great advocate for us. He found a bunch of funding. We partnered up with some other economic development folks in Vermont, and it's been a great partnership. And Betsy was very, very positive through the whole thing. And you guys recently approved it. We're looking to close in 2 weeks. And I can't thank Peter and Betsy enough for what they've done for us. And this will be a great thing for our community.
And we didn't even pay you to say that, Mark. Thank you so much. That was really
That came easy.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Karen Chamberlain, a great friend of the organization. She's Director of Impact Investments at Clean Yield Management. What's your question, Karen? And thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, great. Thank you for a great presentation. I'm calling from Hanover, New Hampshire, which is right on the border of Vermont with Norwich, Vermont. And I'm just curious about how are you thinking about cross-border economic development areas, such as the Upper Valley? Is this something that you have seen in the past and haven't been able to work with a town across the border? And how are you thinking about that with NCIC and possible collaborations with VCLF and other CDFIs in Vermont?
Great. Sarah, can I put that one to you?
Sure. Hi, Karen. Thank you for the question. So I think the opportunity here with NCIC is they have some funds that really are dedicated in Vermont that we've never had access to before. So we certainly appreciate being able to do work on the border, and some of our work with Rock USA and with our partners at Community Development Institute does officially extend to like one town over on the border. But as you know, those borders aren't real solid, right? So the ability here is that we can really now leverage the strength of both funds to be able to better serve the region and not be, oh, sorry, you're on the other side of the river. We're just going to focus on this side here. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity. And that's one of the things that NCIC really brings to the table. And also to partner with some of the other CDFIs in the region who are doing really great work in this area already. We are excited to be part of a more regional solution here.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Karen. And thank you, Sarah, for answering that. We have another one in the chat, and I'm going to pitch this one to Steve Saltzman again. How have governmental support, or how has governmental support as well as grants helped to blend down the cost of private investment capital?
It's been helpful, but it's not sufficient on its own. There have been opportunities through pandemic relief, and we aggressively seek every opportunity we have. But most of the grants that we get, we try to use as equity to leverage, into more loan capital, to make sure that we have ample reserves to maintain our perfect 40-year history of repaying all our investors. And we really use those grants to take risk. So most of those dollars go into reserves as opposed to blended loan capital. We did receive one grant in particular from the federal government that's allowing us to expand our lending to Black, Brown, and Indigenous entrepreneurs, and in disinvested areas. So thanks for the question. I'd say not as much as we'd like, which is, we rely as we have since Julie started this thing 40 years ago, with our individual investors and our community donors, is really the lifeblood of the organization, as opposed to federal subsidy. And in a way, I think that's also helped us that we aren't reliant, on federal grants to make this work. Everybody says community in their name. I'd say for us, it's probably more true of us than it is of probably any of our peer organizations, really anywhere in the country.
Thank you for answering that, Steve. If there's any other questions, please pop them in now. But otherwise, thank you all for joining us, for listening about NCIC and that merger there. I know it's a big change for a lot of people in both organizations. We're really excited to carry it out and see where it takes us. Thank you again to Michael Waters from Dartmouth Health for really just being such a great advocate. We have another question from Karen. Do we plan on offering our manufactured home mortgage products to Vermont? And is there a way to work with those impacted by flooding last summer? Sarah, I'm going to pitch this one to you as well.
Karen has good questions today. So the answer is we are absolutely exploring this. We have an amazing team here with our Welcome Home Loans. And in talking to our partners, we know this is something that's important to be able to expand and where there is a bit of a gap in Vermont. And so we are actively exploring, we're actively working on this. I can't give you a date on when it might be magically available, but we are really looking forward to bringing something like this to Vermont as well. As far as impacted by summer flooding, I know we've worked really closely, and I know NCIC has worked really closely with our partners at USDA and EDA on a lot of different economic development resources. There is not something, a magic bullet to fix these things right now, but this is not going to be a one-time event most likely. And these are exactly why we are investing so much in a lot of our climate resiliency work that we plan to bring with us into Vermont to see what we can do to help our borrowers better sustain in the years ahead as well.
Great, thanks, Sarah. We have a question for Jethro about where we can find technical assistance programs for NEK, and I'm going to assume that stands for Northeast Kingdom. Peter, can you answer that one for us?
Yeah, so I just put into the chat if you'd like to visit our website at ncic.org. There's a lot of information there about our technical assistance program, or email Caitlin Robinson, who is our Director of Economic Development at communityloanfund.org, and she can certainly reach out to you and have a conversation about the technical assistance program.
Wonderful. Again, if there are no other questions, we want to thank you all. We will be sending out a follow-up email with a recording of this video. Please share it with other people in your network who might be interested in any of the things that we talked about today. There will also be links to support us, which we hope that you will use and share as well. And as always, please reach out to us. All of our information is available on the website. We want to answer any questions you have about NCIC, about impact investing, and just all of our programs in general. And we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar, which we haven't planned yet, but we will keep you posted on that and other opportunities to connect with us throughout the year. Have a great afternoon, everybody.